If you watched my video vlog series of my 2019 Minnesota bear hunt this year, I appreciate that you watched that, and I hope you learned some things from it. I had an interesting experience, to say the least. This year was a really unique year. I wanted to just take a few minutes to go through and talk about the things that I learned. This is my 20th year of bear hunting, and I wanted to really analyze some of the things that I did wrong, did right, and that I learned from this season. And I'll try to make this short, but let's kind of go back and talk about what happened this year. And then I'm going to show you a short video clip of me right in the middle of it when I was super frustrated. I haven't ran this before, so I think you'll enjoy that. Well, first of all, a couple of the things that really affected the bear season this year. When we started baiting the middle of August, the weather was good, and boy, the bears started hitting the baits really good. There's a lot of bears around, and I had baits that were in really good spots. I only had one bait that was not working well at all, and that was too close to a parking area in a public hunting area. All of my baits are on public land, and there was just a lot of crummy activity going on in that parking area. I ended up just pulling that bait and moving it about 3/4 of a mile away to another piece of public property. That bait then fired up right away and never did get any really big bears on it. I guess I had one probably 350 pounder go through, hit it a couple times in the night, but it was just would have been a great bait for my friend John, who was coming up from Iowa to hunt with me. And then of course I had my friend Dave, so I was baiting for 3 people. So everything went really well at first, and it was pretty clear to me that there was a lot of natural foods this year. We had a lot of rain during the summer. The hazelnuts were really, really good. There was just, the bears had a great berry crop and everything like that to feed on, so they already had some fat reserves. And man, the acorns were really something. All of the oak trees were really, really producing well. But I was really optimistic as the bears were hitting the bait. I just kind of thought we'd all get our bears in the first few days of the season. The season starts September 1st. And particularly the big swamp bait, I had a lot of really good bears coming into that bait. I had 8 different bears that were hitting it pretty regular. A couple of the really big ones were hitting it enough in daylight that I felt they were pretty killable. And they were both really big bears, probably between, they were both over, the 2 biggest ones were definitely over 400 pounds. I went into the first day of the season with great optimism, and John didn't see any bear. Dave shot a bear the first night, and then the wind switched on me, so I bailed out of my stand. There's just too much good things going in on the big swamp bait, and I just didn't want to take a chance on ruining it that first night. So I just bailed out a couple hours before dark, which was great because I got a chance to go out and help Dave recover his bear. In the first few days of the season, then things started to go haywire. For the most part, people who were bear hunting in Minnesota this year, particularly in this central to slightly north central Minnesota, if you didn't kill your bear in the first 3 or 4 days of the season, you really struggled after that, and that's exactly what happened to us. John actually had a couple opportunities and wasn't able to close the deal, and actually went back to Iowa without a bear. I just could not believe the acorn drop this year. I've been bear hunting 20 years and I've never seen anything like this. It was unreal, the number of acorns on the ground. You could walk under a tree and there would be tens of thousands of acorns on the ground under the tree. You could go on an oak ridge. I mean, I literally walked down an oak ridge where you could go 100 yards and I'll bet there was not a place to put your foot down where you weren't stepping on an acorn. Never seen anything like this. And so the bears had a tremendous amount of natural foods. I ended up finally, I was really patient, just waited for the right moments to hunt, and passed up 2 or 3 bears, and then the really big bear that I called the belly dragger showed up, and then I blew the shot. So I learned something from that too, which I'll go in a minute. But on the 18th day of bear season, I was super frustrated, and that just kind of boiled over, and I just pulled my phone out of my pocket and did this video that you're about to see. It's about a 3-minute video where I talk about my frustrations and so forth. So just watch this, and then I'll be back in a second with some tips about what I've learned from this. I just pulled the 40-acre bait. It's very frustrating. This has been an unbelievably tough year for bear hunting. It's the 18th day of bear season.
and I'm still bear hunting. I've had several close calls, passed up some smaller bears, blew a shot on a giant. But this bait here was really good until we started hunting it, which is kind of unusual because we didn't really hunt it in bad winds. But I had 4 bears on here. 3 of them were pretty decent shooters for most people, 150 to 200 pounders. And then it just kind of went wacky on us. And it only is getting hit right now. Probably 4 hits in the last 10 days. One of which was in the daylight. But it just got me to thinking, being how frustrating this year has been. And I just wanted to give you a word or two of encouragement, because here's something, and just bear with me a minute here. Here's something I want to throw out at you. I do bear hunting seminars across the upper Midwest. I've written more than 100 magazine articles in national outdoor magazines on bears. I wrote the book, The Bear Baiter's Manual, which has done really, really well. I did a video called How to Bait Big Bears, which also has sold a lot of copies. I have been called, in fact, Outdoor News called me one of the foremost, quote unquote, one of these foremost black bear hunters in the world. I've been involved in, between the bears that I've personally shot and the bears for friends and family that I've baited for, I've been involved in probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 120 to 125 bears. I don't know the exact count. But here I stand right now thinking, I really don't know if I have any idea what I'm doing, because nothing is working right now. And, it's a really tough, I understand that it's tough. We've had unbelievable amounts of rain. It just keeps raining day after day after day. The baits are mush. I'm trying to keep decent bait on them. Trying to keep them with good Northwood scent on them. We've had an incredible year for acorns. A lot of them have dropped. There's some still in the trees. The bears are eating them off the ground and climbing in the trees after them. So it's been really, really tough, but there's a lot of bears around, and I've been through this before. I've killed bears before. So I just wanted to kind of bring that up, because I'm still learning, and, I'm still trying to figure this out. Especially these big mature bears, they're really, really difficult. And, the time when you think that you've got a system that's always going to work all the time, and that you can go around telling other people that what I do really works and what you shouldn't be doing what you're doing, well, that just labels you as an amateur, in my opinion. Because if you stop learning, you're going to stop killing bears, because they're adapting and changing, and every year is a little different. So sorry this got a little windy, but I just, I know there's a lot of other people out there that are struggling right now, so hopefully this will help you out and help you understand that even people who are considered, quote unquote, world class or whatever, that's their words, not mine. It's tough for everybody. Let's keep fighting it, man. Let's keep getting after it, and we're not going to give up.
So as you can see, I was pretty frustrated. There's a fair amount of pressure on me. I have sponsors, and there's a lot of people that follow me and follow my magazine articles and so forth. And I tell a lot of people how to bear hunt. And if I'm going to tell people how to bear hunt, I better be shooting bears too. So, there is a fair amount of pressure on me. It kind of boiled over, and you can see it in that video. Now, I just wanted to mention a couple of things that I really learned from this season, and the fact that I've been bear hunting for 20 years has not diminished the fact that I just keep learning. Every year is a little different, and with the incredible amount of natural foods that fell this year, one of the things that I learned was super important was that you have to have quality bait out on those bait sites, and it has to be bait that mimics the natural foods. Bears aren't going to get too far out of their norm to eat food. If you just put a bunch of candy out there this year, you didn't do very well, because you have to mimic those natural foods that are available, because the bears will always gravitate towards the thing that they're designed to eat first, and they'll eat the sweets and everything else that we're putting out there for them second. So the trail mix was super effective, more effective than anything else this year. It was a really critical factor in keeping the bears coming back to the baits because it's got the cashews and the almonds and the things like the nuts, and it's got enough sweets in there. I had some trail mix with a lot of dried fruit in it that was really good this year. They just loved the, especially the dried pineapple. It was really good. So I really improved my thought process, I guess, on how important it is when there's a lot of natural foods to use good quality bait and make sure it's always there. If they come and they don't find something good to eat at your bait site, you might not see them again for quite a while. So you make sure they're always rewarded when they come with some good quality bait. The pastries, they'll eat the pastries when they're fresh, but when they got rained on, and man did it rain, it just kept raining and raining and raining. And it got so sloppy that on a couple of baits, I just had to literally take a shovel and shovel all the wet, soggy garbage off the bait and rebait it. Unfortunately, I made a big mistake early on. Now, I just learned that Minnesota had changed the law. In the past, you could never use a barrel. A couple of years ago, they changed the law so that you could use a barrel on private land. This year, they changed the law so that you could use a barrel on public land with some stipulations. And I didn't even find out about that. There was no publicity on that. I was really surprised. I didn't find out about that until just a few weeks before the bear season. I didn't even know they were considering that. And then when they announced it, it was just like, wow, I don't really have any barrels ready or anything like that. And I'm going on to public land where I'm going to have to try to keep a pretty low profile, so I decided against the barrels. I really believe that if I had used the barrels to protect the bait from all of this rain that we got, I'd have been better off. But of course, I had no idea that we were going to get inches and inches of rain, and the rivers were going to be out of their banks, and streams were going to be flowing everywhere, and everything was soggy. So I had no idea to predict that, or I definitely would have used the barrel. Another thing is, because I screwed up that shot on that really big bear, the belly dragger, and I've been seeing him on camera thinking that bear was a really, really nice bear, and I was really being conservative when I talked about him, about how big he was and everything, but when he walked in person, I just went, holy smokes. I've killed a couple of 400-pound bears, and he was well above them. I've shot a 500-pound bear, and I really believe this bear may have been bigger than my biggest bear of all time. And I blew the shot on it, and so another thing I learned was that you should check your bow a lot and practice during the season itself. I practiced a lot leading up to the season, but then when it started, I'm baiting and running baits and hunting every day, and I just never took the time to check and see. And I'm hauling my bow around on a four-wheeler and stuff like that. Well, I hate to blame the bow. It wasn't the bow's fault. It was my fault for not, making sure it's dialed in all the time. So that was another thing I learned. Yet another thing that I believe I learned from the experience this year was that sometimes trying to hold out for a really big bear may not be the best idea. Now, I've shot a lot of bears, and I don't really have that much interest in shooting a 150 or 200-pound bear, and I passed up some of those bears. But I almost went without a bear because of it, and I ended up shooting a 200-pound bear later because I was fortunate that I had the opportunity. I'm sure that the success rate among bear hunters this year is going to be way, way down because, like I said, the people who didn't shoot a bear in the first few days, things really went bad after that. And so, the key, I guess what I'm getting to here is that sometimes, if it's important to you to shoot a bear, you might want to just shoot the first bear you see because you don't know what the next few days are going to bring. And that's, that's another thing that I learned from this season. So anyway, thanks for being a part of this. I really appreciate the people who follow me and learn from me. I just want you to know that, I'm still learning too, and we're all learning together, and I just wanted to thank you for following this YouTube channel, being a subscriber. It means a lot to me. Next year, I'm going to go bear hunting in Wyoming and also in Manitoba again, and I may go to Saskatchewan. I'm not sure yet on that, but I'm going to keep learning, and we're going to keep plugging away at this, and I'll be bringing you more videos, both how-to instructional type videos and some of the hunts that I'm on. So thank you so much for being along, and leave a comment below. If you're not a subscriber already, click that subscribe button for goodness sakes and hit the bell so you get a notification every time a new video comes out. See you on the next one.